And so we did an excision of the burn wound, covered him by a mesh skin graft supplemented with collagen, and the excised tissue was sent for culture. This is very, very important because in burns you have to excise tissue and send it for culture. Superficial cultures often do not reveal any growth, they are usually skin commensals. He was sent back to the ICU and continued on artificial ventilator, and then Klebsiella was positive. We started him on Teicoplanin also to cover the MRSAs, and we added fluconazole suspecting a fungal infection. And imipenem was continued. Dressing changes continued under anesthesia. And he was still confused on the 10th, but the spikes of fever started reducing, the first good sign we found, and he started responding to verbal commands. And then on the 11th, the ABG started improving. The calcium was low, we gave him calcium gluconate, dressing was again changed. And on the 13th, he was given a breathing trial with TPs, and the imipenem was now de-escalated again to a piperacillin tazobactam combination. So 9 days of artificial ventilation, 13 bottles of blood, 17 bottles of parenteral nutrition, several days of antibiotics, 7 days of antifungals, every alternate day cereal dressings, and burn wound excision. And on the 16th, finally we found that his donor side, despite all this, had healed. His forearms had healed partially, the lower back had healed partially, but the deep back had developed deep burn ulcers because the patient was prone all this time on the ventilator. Then finally on the 15th of April, we covered the rest of his skin. This is the patient on the 15th of April. He was not on any antibiotics by then. And you see, this is just the area which was left to cover by the 15th of April. So this gives you an idea of the kind of support you need. It was the anesthetist who ventilated him all this time, shifted him from the ICU to the OT for surgery. It was a dietitian who gave him some mixed liver enteral feeding, which helped him to regain the calories. And of course the physiotherapists who were there at bedside doing the physiotherapy. Now, word about rehabilitation and physiotherapy. It should start immediately after injury. Don't wait that the patient will become better. You have to start, especially hand burns should be splinted, and not just splinted, they should be taken through the range of motion daily. And the quality of the therapist and physiotherapy has shown to have a positive effect on the outcome of the burns. And then of course you need pressure garments, serial casting, and face masks later to decrease hypertrophic scars. This is one of our patients. She had undergone early burn wound excision. So you can see this is the kind of pressure garment you have to give to prevent hypertrophic scarring on the face. This is the cervical collar we have given to prevent neck contracture. And this is a dynamic splint given for the hand. So you can see how she can flex and extend her fingers with this kind of splintage. Pain management is a very, very important part. We often neglect it. We test these patients in the ward when they are screaming. You see what happens if you don't give adequate analgesia, the overall hypermetabolic state continues, and then the demands increase. And it has been found that ketamine with midazolam provides the best pain control with the least respiratory depression. Now, infection control. Now, many burn patients have altered WBC counts and fever without actual infection. The fever is because of the hypermetabolic state. So in the first week post-burn, never give patients antibiotics. The burn wound itself because of the burns is sterile. And prophylactic antibiotics merely eliminate normal flora and allow resistant organisms to grow. And sepsis typically occurs 2 to 3 weeks, and it can be reduced. This early burn wound excision has really reduced the incidence of sepsis in burns. And quantitative cultures, what I said, that you take a biopsy, do a quantitative culture to actually grow the organism which is causing this infection. And usually we don't have this in our hospital, we are trying to get one, but you must have a burns unit. Why? To prevent contact from the hospital pathogens, because any patient in a hospital for more than a week is going to grow ESBL or MRSAs. That's the hospital flora. So if you can keep them isolated from these kind of pathogens, you are likely to help your patient to survive. That is the role of a burns unit, and things like a laminar airflow and proper isolation of these patients. Fungal infection is a threat in patients whose burn wounds are not covered by 1 month. You saw we had to use fluconazole in that patient. We have used caspofungin in some patients who we thought were fungal, who were growing fungi, and we do of course have the facilities of fungal culture in our hospital. Now the care requirements of a burn patient who has sustained a severe burn injury are considerable and complex. It's not just one person who looks after them. The initial period of hospitalization is lengthy and often followed by many months to years of follow-up and rehabilitation. And it has been seen that 1% of burn needs about 1 day in hospital. That means if you have a patient of 60% burns, is likely to stay in the hospital for 60 days, provided everything goes fine. And mortality, of course, is dependent on the percentage of burns, as we all know, and the age of the patient. So when a patient is between the age of 2 and 40, LA 50, that means the percentage in which 50% of the patients are going to die is 70%. But when the age of the patient increases, say in a 70-year-old patient, if you get a 70-year-old patient with just a 30% burns, the LA 50, that means the she has a 50% chance of succumbing. So that is how age influences the burns. And for the same percentage of burns, patients with an inhalation injury have a 7-time fold increase in mortality. So to conclude, I would like to say a saying by Gary R. Graham, who said, "You will never find a stronger willed person than the burn survivor, for they have suffered the worst injury to the human body anyone can endure and survive." And before ending, I would like to thank our team of DMB PGTs, because this is all and anesthesiologists, because this is a coordinated team effort. This is not something which can be done by one person. Thank you.